Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to take a deep dive into Nordson Corporation.
NDSN.
That's the one. We're going to figure out if this stock deserves a spot in, well, your portfolio.
Good question.
Yeah, so Nordson is a leader in precision dispensing and fluid management.
Interesting.
Adhesives, coatings, sealants. They're the tech behind getting all that where it needs to be.
And so many industries.
I know, right? Electronics, medical devices, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
To really get into this, we've got Nordson's latest financials.
Love those.
Oh, and of course, we've got some analyst commentary. Always fun to see what they're thinking.
Oh, yeah. Always interesting.
And we've got a few news articles, too, just to round things out.
Sounds like we've got a pretty good picture then.
I think so.
Yeah.
So Nordson, not exactly the most exciting industry, right?
Well, maybe not, but...
But they are quietly raking it in. Let's start with the recent performance.
Okay, yeah.
Nordson just wrapped up Q4 2024 with record sales, $2.7 billion. That led to record full-year sales, also at $2.7 billion, a 2% increase year over year.
Not bad.
And their EBITDA for the year, $849 million.
Seriously?
Yeah. They're also boasting $492 million in free cash flow, by the way.
Okay, that's...
Represents a 105% conversion rate on net income. So those are like some really strong numbers.
They really are. But those record sales, though,
Yeah.
they actually point to something we should probably unpack a bit.
Okay.
Nordson's organic growth is, well, it's a bit slow.
Really?
Just 2% for the whole year. And part of that's from some cautious spending in certain sectors.
Okay.
Like polymer processing,
Right.
automotive too. Those rely on Nordson's dispensing systems, but they haven't been making those big investments lately.
So it sounds like external factors then.
Yeah, for sure.
Not like Nordson's doing something wrong necessarily.
No.
Or that their customers are just, I don't know, being a little hesitant.
Exactly. Like hitting the brakes a little.
Makes sense.
And we're seeing that play out in another market too, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Medical devices, they're managing their inventories super tightly,
Okay.
which is also hitting Nordson's growth a bit.
With all the economic stuff going on, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, nobody wants to make any sudden moves.
Speaking of moves, though,
Yeah.
Nordson acquired Atrium Medical earlier this year.
They did, yeah.
Seems like a pretty strategic move to me.
It is. Atrium specializes in fluid components specifically for medical applications. It's not just about revenue for Nordson, they're expanding into a high-growth market. And the integration.
Yeah, how's that going?
It seems to be exceeding expectations. They're seeing it in their revenue and EBITDA already.
Yeah, it's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. Not just buying growth, they're integrating it well.
Exactly. Now, let's talk outlook for fiscal year 2025. Their guidance was...
Conservative.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah. They're projecting sales to increase just 2% to 7%. And adjusted EPS growth of 0% to 8%. What's interesting is they're being cautious in the short term, but their long-term goals, much more ambitious.
Okay, so break this down for me, this conservative versus ambitious thing. What's the deal there?
Well, they're not convinced electronics and agriculture are going to bounce back quickly.
Makes sense.
So they're taking a wait-and-see approach, which, with all the economic uncertainty, is understandable.
Yeah.
But zoom out to their long-term targets, like 2025 to 2029, it's a different story.
Oh.
They want 6% to 8% average annual revenue growth and 10% to 12% adjusted EPS growth.
Big difference.
That's really interesting.
So they're playing it safe now, but confident about later. What's giving them that confidence, though?
Their NBS Next growth framework is a big part of it.
Okay.
It emphasizes a balance between organic growth, so growing their existing business,
Yeah.
and acquisitive growth, like with Atrium Medical.
So finding the right mix.
Right.
And, well, based on what we've seen, they're pretty good at both.
They are, and they've built this incredible competitive moat around their business, too.
How so?
Well, they're the leader in these niche markets, which is hard to just, copy.
Sure.
And they have a lot of recurring parts revenue. Very sticky business model. Plus, they go direct to customer.
Oh,
It
interesting.
gives them a ton of control and insight.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sounds like they've got a lot working in their favor then.
They do, even with the economic stuff going on.
Oh, true. But before we get too excited...
Oh, yeah. We have to see what the analysts are saying.
Oh, good point. What's a word on the street?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, actually.
Oh, I love it when they don't agree. Lay it on me.
You've got firms like Seaport Global. They're bullish.
Okay.
Recently upgraded Nordson to a buy rating even, $250 price target.
Not bad.
But then you've got Baird. They're more cautious.
How so?
Downgraded to neutral, $237 price target.
Wow, so a pretty big difference of opinion then. What gives?
It's all about how much weight they're putting on certain factors.
Like what?
Some are focused on the long-term growth potential, like Nordson overcoming those short-term issues in, say, the electronics and agriculture markets. Others, like Baird, they're fixated on those short-term challenges.
Yeah.
So it's short-term versus long-term, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you said mixed bag. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, there are. It's actually amazing how different analysts are interpreting the same information.
I know, right? It's like they're reading different reports.
Yeah. Some are even wondering if Nordson might be a good acquisition target,
That's interesting.
given their tech and, well, their market position.
Makes sense.
So some think it's a buy, some think it's a hold, some think it's a potential acquisition target.
All right, okay. It's getting good, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. What about Nordson's fair value?
Right, good point. And those potential risks, too.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Our analysis puts the fair value for NDSN at $255.30 right now,
Okay.
which is, a good bit higher than its current market price.
Interesting. So possible upside there then.
Potentially, yeah. But there are definitely risks to think about.
Like what?
Well, the biggest one is if those electronics and agriculture markets stay weak.
Yeah, I can see that.
If they don't recover like Nordson's hoping, well, that could really mess with their growth.
True.
The integration of Atrium Medical
Right.
could hit some snags. You never really know.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, of course, there are always those, big economic shocks that nobody can predict.
Yeah, those are always out there, lurking.
Right. Always a possibility.
Okay, so strong track record, solid growth strategy, but some headwinds too. So, big question. Should someone buy NDSN?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. So what do people need to think about before making that decision?
Well, first off, how comfortable are they with risk?
Good point.
These short-term problems, they're real and they might not go away quickly.
So risk tolerance is key. But what about the potential rewards? Why should someone invest in Nordson?
Well, they're dominant in their niche.
Yeah.
And they've consistently shown they can innovate and adapt. Like, they've been through economic cycles before.
True.
And their NBS Next framework, that shows they've got a real plan for growth.
Okay, so it's about balancing those risks and rewards.
Right. And seeing if it matches up with your goals and, well, your risk tolerance.
Exactly. No right or wrong answer here. Just depends on the person.
Yeah.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I think we should do a quick recap before we keep going. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we started by looking at their recent performance, and it's been impressive. Record sales, record EBITDA, pretty exciting stuff.
It is, but
But we know those numbers are coming partly from acquisitions,
right.
and their organic growth is a bit slower.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about why that is, the cautious spending in those key markets, the economic uncertainty.
Exactly.
It's making everyone a bit hesitant. But Nordson is still looking towards ambitious long-term growth.
Yeah, they are.
And their NBS Next framework seems to be the reason for that confidence, that balance of organic and acquisitive growth, remember?
Right. It's a good strategy.
It is. And then we talked about all the things that give them an edge.
Yeah, they've got a lot going for them.
Their market position, that recurring revenue, their direct-to-customer approach, all of those things.
And don't forget their profitability. It's impressive.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, we can't forget the analyst showdown.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
Some are bullish, some are cautious, and some are even thinking Nordson could be an acquisition target.
It would be interesting to see, wouldn't it?
It would. And we wrap things up by looking at Nordson's fair value, which seems like there could be some upside potential, but also those risks. We can't forget those.
No, definitely not.
So there you have it. That's Nordson Corporation in a nutshell.
Or at least the first part of the story.
Exactly. There's plenty more to discuss, so stick around.
Oh, yeah. We're just getting started.
And hey, if you're liking this deep dive so far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate it.
It helps us out a ton. We're here to help you figure out the investment world, one deep dive at a time.
You got it. Okay, so let's get into, the really interesting stuff now.
Even more interesting.
Okay, I'm ready. I think it's time we take a closer look at Nordson's recent earnings call.
A transcript, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Those things can be gold mines, honestly.
Oh, I agree. You get to hear what management is really thinking. What stood out to you?
Well, they kept talking about their NBS Next framework, and it's not just some, buzzword.
Yeah.
It's driving real changes, like across the board. We're talking better factory efficiency, more parts revenue,
Okay, yeah.
improved on-time delivery even. Real stuff that actually affects their bottom line.
So it's not just about the big long-term goals. They're actually, doing things to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's working. Like, you can see it in their gross margins. They're going up.
That's a good sign.
Oh, and they're being smart about costs, too. Cutting where they can.
Always a good idea, especially these days.
Right. Every penny counts. Speaking of which, remember we talked about medical device customers and their inventory?
Yeah, being really cautious.
Well, seems like that's not going away anytime soon.
Oh, well, really?
Yeah, still lots of uncertainty. Nobody knows when things will go back to normal in that sector.
So not great news for Nordson.
No, not really. Actually, it's not just medical devices either.
Oh, cool.
So electronics, they mentioned some, slightly better order numbers.
Okay.
But management isn't expecting a sudden boom in spending anytime soon.
Probably for the best, honestly.
Right. Better safe than sorry.
Okay, so let's talk backlog. Always a big deal for investors. What's the latest?
At the end of 2024, it was about $580 million.
Okay.
That includes $35 million from the Intrium acquisition.
Right.
But even without that, it's still pretty big. Lots of orders waiting to be filled.
So that's a good sign then.
Yeah, I'd say so. Means there's still demand, even with all the, uncertainty out there.
I like that. Gives them some, breathing room.
Exactly. It means we can be a bit more confident about their future revenue, at least to a degree.
I like the sound of that. But hold on, didn't they say something about a lot of their revenue being book and ship?
Yeah, they did.
What does that even mean?
It means a lot of their sales happen super fast. Like an order comes in, they book it, and boom, it's shipped out.
So even with a big backlog, it might not be the whole story when it comes to predicting their future revenue.
You got it. Just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. So we got to look at the backlog, but also this book and ship thing, and then, of course, all those bigger economic trends.
Exactly. It's about putting all the pieces together. Speaking of which, there was something else in the earnings call transcript that caught my eye.
Oh, what's that?
They talked about infrastructure spending and what they're planning to spend on capital expenditures.
Okay.
Looks like it'll be around $50 to $60 million in fiscal year 2025.
Interesting. So even with that conservative guidance,
Yeah.
they're still investing in growth, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's about the long game.
Where are they planning on spending that money?
Probably things like, expanding their factories, upgrading tech, maybe even more acquisitions. Who knows?
Speaking of acquisitions, remember how we talked about Nordson potentially being acquired?
Oh, yeah. That was interesting.
What makes them such an attractive target, do you think?
Well, they're the top dog in their market, right? Strong relationships with customers, they innovate, and they're profitable.
And their stock price might be a bit undervalued right now, right? Makes them even more appealing.
Definitely doesn't hurt. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked to see a bigger company or maybe a private equity firm try to buy them.
All right, so back to the big question. Should people buy Nordson stock right now? What's the verdict?
Well, we've learned a lot today. Nordson's doing well financially. They've got a good market position and a solid plan for growth.
Their recent performance has been great, even with those challenges in certain markets.
Right. They're doing a lot of things right.
But what about those short-term issues? And the whole economic uncertainty thing? Those can't be ignored.
They can't. But risk is always part of investing, right?
True.
It's about balancing those risks against the potential rewards and figuring out if Nordson fits your goals and, well, your comfort level with risk.
Exactly. It's different for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've looked at their financials, their strategic moves. We even considered them as an acquisition target.
Yeah, it's been a pretty thorough look. So I think now's the time to kind of wrap everything up, give our listeners the key takeaways, things to think about.
Sounds good to me. So let's just get right to it. Is NDSN a buy or what?
That's the big question, right? But like we've seen, it's not so simple. Nordson's got a lot going for it. They're a leader in their market, profitable, clear growth strategy.
Right.
But those headwinds, especially with the economy and how things are looking for electronics and agriculture, can't ignore those.
True. So for our listeners, What should they do with all this info? How do they decide if Nordson's a good investment for them?
I think the key is to really focus on two things. First, the long term. Nordson's always been good at innovating. They've dealt with tough economic times before and come out on top. And their NBS Next framework, that shows they're serious about future growth.
Makes sense. So for long-term investors, maybe those short-term problems aren't such a big deal. What's the second thing then?
How much risk are you comfortable with? That's huge. Every investment has some risk, and Nordson is no different. If you're going to lose sleep over those potential problems, then maybe it's not the right fit for you.
Right. It all comes down to your personal strategy and, your risk tolerance.
Yeah, totally.
But even if Nordson isn't the right investment for everyone right now, there's still a lot to learn from this, right?
Oh, absolutely. This deep dive, it shows how important it is to really look at everything, go beyond just the headlines. You got to get into the financials, understand the industry, and, figure out the company's long-term plan.
Yeah. And it's a good reminder that, well, there are no guarantees in the stock market.
Correct.
Every investment has risks and rewards.
Right. Do your homework, understand those risks, and then decide if it's worth it for you. That's what it's all about.
We've done a lot of that homework for you today with Nordson, but always do your own research too. Don't just take our word for it.
Exactly. And remember, investing is like a marathon. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about being smart, staying focused, and thinking long term.
Well said. And hopefully, this deep dive has given everyone what they need to make those smart decisions.
We did our best.
We did. But the learning doesn't have to stop here. If you want more, if you want to keep exploring the world of investing, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon.
We're always putting out new deep dives, looking at all kinds of companies and industries. We want to help you become a better, smarter investor.
That's what we're here for. Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone. Until next time, happy investing.